Welcome. So this is a video about the new moon for July 24, 2025. So here I'm gonna give a little astrology update on what this new moon is actually about and what I think is happening in the collective on an unconscious level, on an energetic level. You know how it goes. So with every new moon, there's a new beginning. But in order for something to begin, something must end. And the rest of the transits that are happening at the time of a new moon, they're going to give you an idea of what it's going to be about. Now, this new moon is going to be in the sign of Leo, and Leo is about self-expression, self-image, self-esteem. So these keywords are going to be highlighted. And at the same time, the ruler of Leo, which is the sun, is hard aspected by Pluto. So it makes an almost exact opposition to Pluto, around 1 to 2 degrees of Leo, to 2 to 3 degrees Pluto in Aquarius. This opposition is going to really drag out your demons, so to speak. Your doubts, your worries, your anxieties, everything that you try to control in order to be perceived in a beautiful, in a pretty, in a favorable light. So you could say this moon addresses control issues on the self-image, on the self-perception. If you haven't felt this energy in the last week or 2 weeks, where it's almost like you're under the microscope, or every word you say could be used against you, or you're on trial. You're on trial and you are not innocent until you're proven to be innocent. This is actually the energy of this new moon. At the same time, we have Mars exactly on the south node, 1 degree orbit. South is at 19 degrees Virgo. Mars is now at 21 degrees of Virgo, so it's 2 degrees. That means we are shedding or releasing Mars energy. So this can be a bit strange, because both the sun, which is what Leo is about, right? This is a masculine energy. But Mars is also masculine. But this masculine we are shedding while the other masculine is taking over. Okay, think of it as the king is taking over and the warrior is settling down. So while maybe previously you were in the mind that you have to fight for what you believe in, or you have to make boundaries, or you have to assert yourself, or you have to force an issue, or you have to compete with somebody to get what you want, where you have to be in survival mode, you have to defend yourself. That is Mars. That's what you're shedding. And in Virgo, this can be a very strategic way of fighting. Where you're very nitpicky, you're very careful about what you say. This is the communication. Virgo is, because it's ruled by Mercury. And Mercury deals with trying to control the input-output of the data. So then somebody looks at the data and says the data is wrong. And if they constantly say the data is wrong, you get nervous. You get anxiety, you get defensive. So that's what Mars and Virgo does. Like, everybody's constantly challenging your data. Like, you got it always wrong. Everything you do is wrong. So then the South Node says, you know what? Stop doing something. Why are you trying to do everything right? Do it wrong. Make the mistake. Fail. That's kind of energy. Which, of course, is also, something that makes the ego uncomfortable. That you have to fail in order to progress. That you have to make a mistake, or you have to give the enemy, whoever your enemy is, an area of attack. You have to be vulnerable. And that's something that Virgo doesn't like to do. It's very similar to Scorpio. And this is, of course, why Mars is in its home in Scorpio. Because here you are defending yourself. You are withdrawing. You are reserving your energy. You do not give area of attack in Scorpio. And neither do you do it in Virgo. It's just Virgo is more intellectual, And Scorpio is more about emotional things like jealousy, envy, wanting to possess what the other person has. So now we're shedding what exactly? Well, we are also still possessive in Virgo, but we're trying to possess the narrative, the story of who we are. That's what we're releasing. So the old story is crumbling about who you are. The new story, the hero's story, that is what Leo is about, is beginning. Okay, so you're stepping into the new hero version of you. And this hero, it needs a mission, a divine mission. That's why the sun represents consistency. Somebody who's showing up every day, doing the same thing over and over again. Not somebody who is boastful or dramatic or puts on a big show. Is not about being performative. This is the shadow of Leo. So anybody who's trying to be performative or, like fake it till you make it, trying to put on a mask because they can't handle whoever they actually are, which could be very insecure, they're not going to have a nice time on this new moon. But those who have been doing the inner work, owning the insecurities, working over the insecurities, trying to see the gold behind that, well, then they will have the gold, right? So those who dig deep, which is what Pluto is about, which is in opposition to the sun, they will get the rewards. So it's almost like you have to dig deep to get yourself out of the underworld, because it's not conforming to society. Aquarius is society, the group, the people around you. So this is why it's a time of shedding, letting people go, releasing how they're perceiving you. Do they like you? Do they approve of you? The sun stands still. And with Mars on the south node, we take our stand here. So there's a gravity, there's a density, there's a heaviness that the fixed energy wants to maintain its higher status, which is not to give up that status, not to give up the mission, not to give up the self based on other people's expectations, their perception of you, their feelings about you. Because here with Pluto, we are in a tight spot. Like there is somebody nagging, criticizing, challenging you, even if that somebody is only yourself. So if you're alone on this new moon and there's nobody you're dealing with, then you're just shedding the self-criticism. Because the self-criticism is all about casting doubt into your mind, casting doubt into your mission. Like the mission is never going to work. The commitment is off. Okay, the commitment to who you actually are. So this new person that you're stepping into is actually an old story, but you've been avoiding it, or you've been afraid of it because it threatens social cohesion, threatens your relationships, it destabilizes the image you created for yourself. So now this image is being dismantled. But even though all of this is happening, this is actually a pretty light new moon. Based on what I see with the aspects, overall the new moon is not heavy at all. It is only this Pluto aspect and then this Mars. Other than that, it's mostly trines and sextiles. It's pretty harmonious because you can see all the outer planets are around 1 to 3 degrees in masculine signs. So Saturn and Neptune are in Aries at 1 degree. And Pluto is at 2 to 3 degrees Aquarius. So they're making a harmonious aspect, fire and air. And then Uranus is in Gemini right at the beginning. So again, more air. And this air and this fire, it just pushes away, like the distractions, like your fear, your anxiety, your worry, your defense against judgment is the distraction. Like there's forces conspiring to distract you from being yourself. Like being yourself is too heavy, too much of a responsibility. So if you can't handle it, if you can't handle the pressure of not being able to control other people and what they think about you, then you will feel very unstable. But the strength of Leo, what Leo is really all about, the sun is all about, is to uphold the strength. And not like Aries, where you take action and you do something, not like Sagittarius, where you go very far and you keep traveling and you keep moving. The sun is a still fire, a fixed fire, so it's a very balanced energy. And this is why there is a sense of harmony that is associated with Leo, because it maintains structure. It makes things more stable. It calms things down. It regulates them. It manages them. Because it represents the ruler, represents the king. So the king has to maintain his kingdom. And the kingdom is a representation of himself, or what he's trying to accomplish, like the dream. So the dream of who you really are is now being actualized with a new moon. This is really the time to actualize who you really are and let go of those who do not want to support you in this mission. And of course, it's a new moon, so it is still starting a cycle here. So you may be at the beginning of what this means. This you being in charge of yourself, making your own decisions, feeling like you're in control of the narrative. Because you do not care what other people's thoughts or feelings about the narrative are. So they are not able to influence your mind or your self-perception, right? So a king that is insecure, who doubts himself very easily because of the challenge of his followers, he's constantly looking towards other people to make decisions. So this can also be a time where people come out of the woodworks and they're asking somebody to tell them what to do. Tell them who they are, what they're supposed to do with their life, in the most negative expression. But I think for a lot of people, it will just be like a stepping into your own independence, stepping into what you think is right, and just feel there's a sense of ease here. While, of course, Mercury is in retrograde, Saturn is in retrograde, Neptune is in retrograde. All of it is very introspective energy. So you're still constantly reevaluating what you're doing, who you are. Is this really me? I'm not sure. Let me, realign this. So think of it like this way. You put your car into a workshop, and there's just so many things you want to change about the car. But it's a really good car. It just needs an upgrade. It needs an overhaul. And then there's multiple people around you who are telling you how to drive your car. That is Pluto opposition the sun. Everybody is telling you how to drive. And there may be a sense of fear, of intimidation, like, oh my God, if I don't listen to them, it's going to be worse. So this can trigger also an element of scarcity. Like, I'm not going to be able to achieve very much, so I might as well just settle. I might just settle down and say yes to everything, so I can maintain peace in my kingdom. But this is not the time of peace. This is a time to say no and maintain your ground, stand your ground, and ignore the challenges. Yeah, to ignore all those voices inside of you that are telling you to abort the mission. Because these distractions are very strong right now. Like, imagine like an inner critic who's constantly telling you to think it over. And when you think it over, of course the next step is to to abort. Yeah, that is Leo in a nutshell. It just refuses to abort. And the sun itself represents your individuality. Of course, it is natural that Leo is the opposite sign of Aquarius, meaning it is opposite to society, opposite to the group consciousness, opposite to people. So there's a lot of problems with people, or not being sure if you want to maintain those connections. Are those connections really good for you? And there's a lot of self-focus here. A lot of thinking about whether or not you should make a compromise. You know, like somebody tempts you to make a compromise. Somebody tempts you to make a sacrifice, to cooperate with them, and this is supposed to be in your own benefit. So it's almost like you're being tempted to lower your standards. Yeah? So Leo is really about raising your standard and thinking about how interesting it would be, how joyful it would be, how fun it would be, how much more exciting it would be to chase that standard, no matter how unrealistic, to go for that standard that you want, no matter the opposition, no matter the enemies, no matter the disagreements, no matter. It's almost like, like being stubborn. And being stubborn is not always a bad thing. I think with this new moon in Leo, we all need a little bit of stubbornness at the moment. Because otherwise, if we are too pliable, with a mutable Virgo Mars energy that we're trying to release with the South Node, this is not the time to be mutable. This is not the time to bend. It's not the time to compromise, not the time to give in. No. And this is like, the sun holding up the standard. And this is how you get in charge. So then people follow you because they know you're going to keep moving. And nothing can really stop you. This is almost like the Chariot also. And we are, of course, we're coming out of this Cancer season right now. And Jupiter is still in Cancer. Venus will move into Cancer at the end of the month. We just came out of a moon conjunction Jupiter transit in Cancer. So there's a lot of strength in following your own intuition, in putting yourself first, making your needs, desires a priority, but it's all very future-oriented. So if things are not fully working right now, if things seem a bit unstable, a bit chaotic, a bit lacking, which it can very much feel, like Mars and Virgo on the South Node, it's like somebody who says nothing is good enough. I need to do more. Again, the South Node is about shedding. So do you really need to do more? Or do you need to slow down and stop doing what you're doing? Do less. And this is where the discomfort comes in. This is where we feel like, but I don't want to do less. Yeah, but if you keep trying to force it, or you want results now, this is where Saturn also in retrograde in Aries says, stop it. Like stop acting on this impulse, this fuel of irritation, this fuel of worry, this fuel of anxiety, because it has no future. It will run out. And when it does, which it inevitably will, you'll be back at zero. So are you really making progress? Because it can look like you're making progress because you're moving, because you're doing things. But the real progress is in doing less, in stopping. So I think this whole year, 2025, the first 6 months have all been about this shedding. Just get rid of something, just stop doing something, just get it all out of the way. So the new beginning, which I think, still will be like 2026, not this year, can come, and you will not have to deal with all of these karmic issues again. So now all these karmic issues are also being exposed with 3 retrogrades. And karmic issues basically are about you repeat something. You do it over and over again. And a part of you knows you don't like it. It's not good for you. But it has worked somehow. It makes you comfortable, right? Like imagine somebody who goes to pursue a certain routine every day, like going to the gym every day. Of course, it makes you more comfortable to know that you're consistently making this progress because you're forcing yourself to maintain the discipline and do that action. But that action is only functional, only good if it's based on a long-term goal, if it's based on discipline, if it's based on logic, on a rationality. So it's something that you plan for, and you're not doing it just because you feel that you must. So it's not about some emotion pressuring you into action. This is a time to resist emotions. Okay? And I know this seems funny because Jupiter is in Cancer, but Jupiter is the planet that doesn't like emotions. Okay? And that's something I think I've mentioned before. Jupiter doesn't want you to act on your feelings. It wants to understand your feelings. It wants to self-reflect in Cancer. It wants you to see through those feelings. Okay, Jupiter is about reach. So when it's in a sign, it reaches for what that sign is really about. And what that sign is really about is going to give you benefits. So Cancer is about emotional control. And in the first 13 degrees, you have Adra Nakshatra, where you have Jupiter now. And Adra is about Shiva and his dark version, which is Rudra, which is the Lord of Storms, which is the most difficult, the most destructive of all nakshatras. Because here you have to deal with the darker aspects of existence, and you have to resist the turbulence or the temptation that wants you to act out. Like there's a lot of anger in Adra Nakshatra. So if you impulsively act on the anger, it will become self-destructive. But if you control your anger, it will eventually lead to rewards. And it's interesting because I feel like all the planets are really, there's not something speaking. Like all the planets are speaking the same language. And this is why I think it's a very harmonious new moon. Because Saturn in Aries speaks the same language. Stop it. Don't act it. Saturn is a planet of no. And the sign of action. Literally, the Aries, like anger, action, irritation. No. Mars is on the south node. South node is your body, which is your conditioning, which is your past. You have to let go of. The body says act, but you are not supposed to. And then you have Jupiter in Adra, giving you the wisdom and the teaching of how to say no to your own body. And of course, I can this hive mind interject speaking to me. Oh yes, but you need to listen to your body. Really? Are you listening to your body? Or are you listening to the control system? Are you listening to the conditioning? Are you listening to the program? Do you even know the difference between program and body? Because the program is in the body. Like, where do you think it is? Where do you think it comes from? So Jupiter addresses these hidden emotional blind spots, right? We think something is going to make us feel good, but actually, by pursuing this good feeling, we're getting distracted from the discomfort that needs to happen to rise and station, to elevate our consciousness. That's what it's really about. And I think this also this whole year, why a lot of people have felt very negative in this year, very pessimistic, very depressed, like, oh my God, nothing's working out, everything's so dark. The year of the snake, you face the darkness, and you're as uncomfortable as it's going to get. Because growth, evolution, Plutonian change is achieved through the discomfort. And now we have Pluto opposition, the Sun, the new moon in Leo, around 2 degrees. And 2 degrees, 1 degree. That's exactly where Mercury retrograde will be at the end of it, on August 11. I don't know if it will be like 4 degrees Leo instead, but it will be opposition Pluto also, around the same spot at the end of August. So we are in, this is not an eclipse season, obviously, but it may as well be one, right? Like, this is a shadow period, getting all the crickets out of the closet, digging under the shelf and finding the rot, the stench. And actually, this is where the gold is. You know, like, if you just remove all the dirt, you will see there's gold behind it. But you have to go through the dirt first. You have to get your hands dirty. You don't want to go in there. This is about going to places you don't want to go to. This is about performing actions that you don't like to do. This is also Saturn and Aries. This is also Mars South Node. You want to do something, but it's not right to do the thing you want to do. What is really right is to do the thing you know you must do to progress. So your consciousness must be online, like your intellect must be working. You must be perceptive. You must be able to see, all the programs that are trying to keep you in the old paradigms. Because this is all old energies. That's all we're really dealing with this whole year. So the snake is still shedding, is not through. And neither is the crab when it goes into the new shell. So during its period of transitioning from one shell to the next, it's extremely vulnerable. It's extremely panicky. It doesn't have any ground to stand on. So it can feel a little bit destabilizing or ungrounding. But I think actually, when you really understand what it's really about, is to stand your ground and keep upholding the new mission, then there is a ground to stand on. And the ground is firmer than anything you've ever done. This is the firmest ground you're ever going to be on this new moon. This is as firm as it gets so far. Of course, it's going to also get more firmer in the future. But this gravity, this dragging you down, this slowing you down, you're going to continue feeling this throughout this whole season while the Sun is in Leo and Mercury is retrograde in Leo. So Mercury is like, am I going to express this? Am I going to fight for this? Am I going to talk about this? Am I going to expose the shadows? You will. But you're not going to feel like it's a big deal. like it's such a big deal to embrace change, to resist the need to dim your light. No, you're not dimming your light. But you're not being grandiose either. You're not putting on a big show. You're not forcing anything. No, this is almost like, I don't know, this feels like very harmonious energy, where everything is kind of standing up on its own. If you can just let it stand up. Can you let it stand on its own? Like your spirit, your mission, whatever it is, whatever new beginning you want to have, can you allow it to emerge? And can you stop getting into its way? Can you stop distracting yourself from the problem and trying to, imagine somebody who's trying to manage everything, trying to handle everything, but life throws at you, oh yeah, if I just fix this and fix that and fix all of these problems, then I'm going to feel safe. No, you're going to feel safe now. You're going to be on the ground now. You're going to be firm now. You're stable now. So that's what this energy is trying to do. Again, it goes back to this Mars, South Node, Virgo. When multiple planets are speaking the same story, things are simple. Because everything is working together. And I feel like this has been a theme for 25 anyways. So yeah, that is pretty much the new moon in a nutshell. So if you found this helpful, if you like this, please leave a like and subscribe. If you're interested in a personal reading and a natal chart reading to get an in-depth interpretation of your own chart, you know where to find me. You can message me at any given time. With that being said, thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video. Bye bye.